Have we finished? Good. I call the honourable member Darian Fenton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, this is a morning for learning new words from the previous member. What was it? Obstification? Obstification. Yes, that'll be hard. Yeah, I'll ask for it now. Is there a dictionary in the house? Is there a dictionary in the house? Let's look it up.
That's what he's getting his education.
Oh, that's what he learned when he was getting his education. Yes, very, very good. Anyway, I'm pleased to take a call on this bill, although I do so with great disappointment, Mr Speaker. I think it's a very miserly measure that's being rushed through the House this morning, and the government's clearly reluctant to pay. This bill is full of reluctance, full of extinguishments of rights, full of excuses, full of if, buts and maybe. And the worst thing about it is the fact that it's being rammed through under urgency when the people that are most affected by that is the disabled people and their families, will have no opportunity for input. They will have no chance to have a say about how this will affect them. They will have no chance to come along to a select committee and tell their stories. And what's sad is there will be no chance for the members of the select committee to gain some understanding of the issues that face disabled people and their families. And what's worse, the government has ignored offers of cooperation from other parties. We have called on the government to put aside the court case, which they did eventually. We called on the government to cooperate with other parties to find a solution that the whole Parliament could support. Last year, the government put out a consultation document which I believe was clearly designed to preempt any decision-making. While they boast about the fact that they have workshops and things all around the country, it was very clear from the messages that the Minister was giving back then that this was going to be a very, very limited solution, and it would be heavily targeted. Now, while I've been sitting here, Mr Speaker, I've been thinking about a disabled member of my family, and people that have disabled members of their family understand this. Now, my auntie was severely disabled, and my grandmother used to carry her around on her back. She carried her around on the back. She got up in the middle of the night and looked after her. She didn't put her in an institution like so many people did in those days. She looked after her. She taught her to read. She taught her to catch the bus so she could go to town. She taught her to understand money so she could use the little pittance that she got. And that was, I think that was exceptional in those days, but I know the toll that took on my grandmother, and I know it contributed to her dying sooner than she should have, because that was years, that was a lifetime of struggle for her. And even when Peggy, my auntie, went into a residential home, once we stopped putting people in institutions, it was still a burden on my grandmother. There was still that responsibility. And so I want to pay a tribute to my grandmother and my auntie and to all of the families that are in the situation of having a much-loved disabled family member that they do their best to care for, to keep at home and to remove the responsibility from others, including the state, to care for them, because they love them and they want to give them the best possible chance at having a decent life. One of the things that I'm concerned about in this bill is the proposal to pay minimum wage, and the proposal to pay effectively half of what private carers are earning, as the Minister has said. And as Catherine Delahunty said, this is entrenching a new discrimination, another pay inequality, and don't we know all about those? And I'm also very concerned about the responsibility that goes on families. Now, we support individualised funding, but there has to be support put in place for family members who are employed by their disabled children, adult children, so that they're able to manage the responsibilities of being an employer, which is essentially what they will be, or one of the choices they have to be. As I said, paying minimum wage is, I think, unacceptable, and I think that the families will be very disappointed, and I think it shows how this government values the support and the contribution they make in caring for those very disadvantaged people. Mind you, it's not surprising, Mr Speaker, because we have a budget this week where carers come off worst, actually third best, not just second best but third best. Best time money, yes, there's more money for aged care, but nothing in there that addresses the low income, the critical pay issues in aged care. There's something about training, but nothing about addressing the fact that most aged care residential workers are on minimum wage or just above. Nothing about that. And the former EEO Commissioner, Judy McGregor, did a very extensive report on the critical issue that's facing us with caring for an ageing population. But there's nothing in this budget that even recognises there's a problem. There's nothing for home care workers, many of whom actually care for both disabled people but also older people. Nothing for home care workers who are now having to go to the court as well to claim minimum wage for the travel that they have to carry out between clients. So they go to one home and the clock starts ticking, they get paid their minimum wage for the hour they work, then the clock goes off again, they get in their car and off they go to another place which could be miles and miles away, but they get no recompense for that except a measly allowance if they're lucky. So they're now going to the court to challenge the government about paying minimum wage for the period of time that they have to spend on the road in between jobs. And so they should, because so many other people who work in the healthcare sector or other sectors actually get paid for every hour they work, whether it be going between jobs or not. And there's another group of carers who are currently taking a case to the court as well, and they're the carer relief workers. They're the carer relief workers who are employed, well, they're not employed by they're funded through the Ministry of Health and DHBs. They're paid $75 for a 24-hour period. 24-hour period, $75. So they're pursuing a minimum wage case as well. But guess what? The Ministry of Health and the DHBs are arguing that they don't employ them. So they're not responsible for paying the minimum wage. The disabled people they care for, the people that they provide respite care for, are the employers, according to the Ministry of Health and the DHBs. They are responsible. And so it's hands off, not our problem, pass the buck, put the responsibility onto the disabled people who are employers. And that's what worries me about this bill too, that I think we will see more of that buck shifting going on to the people that are most vulnerable and that need as much support as possible. Not only the choice to employ somebody from their family, but also the support to make sure that that person is paid properly and is able to, their employment relationship is able to be managed. And you know, the issue, that is a very, very important issue in this bill that I want to see some more discussion with in the committee stages. Going back to how I started, Mr Speaker, can I say that we are disappointed with this bill. We are particularly disappointed that we are going through 3 stages today under urgency. I know that it is a step in the right direction, but it's a drop in the bucket, and that the process is awful. And the information that the opposition parties have been given about the background to this bill, with this regulatory impact statement that is like this, is outrageous. It's outrageous, but we've come to get, we're used to that under this government. We're used to this under this government. The process is awful. I think it's disrespectful to the carers, the adult carers of disabled people, and it's disrespectful to New Zealand. Thank you.
I call the honourable member